Happy Saturday to all. We're so grateful you chose to spend a little bit of it with us. Sarah and I truly love these webinars.
It's true. I feel
Um,
very excited today. I don't know what it is. I'm like,
I
maybe
know we're both
it's
excited. We love to meet new people. We're actors, so we just like to talk and meet people. I know we can't see you, but we feel your wonderful energy, and we love to spread a little knowledge about this kooky, hairy college audition process because it can be a little confusing. So we promise you will leave this hour more clear about things than you came in some way. I promise. And we're excited to deliver that for you. So I'm giving folks just another moment to stream in, but in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen and make sure that you all can see my slides, and then we'll introduce ourselves. Sarah, can you see those? Oh,
loading,
there they are.
loading. Yep, there we go.
Amazing. Okay. Well, again, welcome, welcome. If you just hopped in, we are so happy you're here. We're going to give you an overview today of the college audition process as in a nutshell as we can possibly make it. And we're going to speak a little bit to who we are at MCA and how we help students and families through that process. So whether you're a junior yourself or a parent of a junior or a guidance counselor, I know there's maybe one or two of y'all on the call. Thanks for being here, or a sophomore who's an eager beaver, which is great, go you, or a freshman who's like, what is going on? We are psyched that you're here and we're grateful. So thank you. We're excited. I'm Gigi Watson. I'm one of the directors of my college audition, and I live in Los Angeles. I worked in Boston and lived there for 15 years, but I'm originally from Philadelphia. Go Eagles. And I am an actor, and I work in primarily stage, but also a little bit of screen and radio as well. And I went to musical theater school at Emerson College. I got my BFA there in Boston at Emerson, and I worked in their admissions department for a long time as well. So that's me. Sarah, want to introduce yourself?
Delighted. Would love to. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Muirhead. I am the other director here at my college audition. I'm based in Boston. Love Boston. We got a lot of great schools here that we have a lot of students at that we love. But I am originally from New Jersey. That's where I grew up, doing a lot of musical theater. I have my BFA in acting from Boston University and also a diploma in classical acting from the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And like Gigi, I'm still a professional actor. I mostly do work on stage, both musicals and plays, and I also do some directing as well. So that's me. Oh, and I guess I've been with MCA for over 10 years now. Yeah, guiding students through this process. So excited.
Amazing. Yes, thank you. I forgot to say that. I've been with MCA in some capacity, whether coaching or helping Sarah run the business now since 2017. So it's been a while for me as well. And I will just say we're going to start out with this old school slideshow moment. That's how we find it's best to rock, a little bit of visual, a little bit of audio in these webinars. And we're going to do that for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. And then we're going to open it up to questions and hopefully save a chunky amount of time for Q&A. But please feel free to put questions in the chat or the Q&A feature as we are talking and as we're going through. And Sarah and I will try to answer them as they come up, or we'll save some big ones for the Q&A. So feel free to ask those anytime before you forget. Kicking things off, just before we get into the nuts and bolts of the process, we wanted to introduce ourselves, and not just ourselves, but our beautiful team, who you can see here on the right, these cuties. These are our coaches here below me and Sarah. They are amazing. A lot of them have been with our team for 10 years or more than 10 years. Sarah and I are your consultants, so we're the directors of MCA, and we work with every student. You either work with me or with Sarah as kind of the captain of your ship, and we make sure that everyone is talking to each other in a way that supports you really well, whether that's a mix of some people from our team and some people from your own team who you already have, like a great voice teacher or a private dance coach. Or we can also provide total support, and you can work with one of our coaches in all of the areas that you need help with. But you'll all work with either me or Sarah if you sign on to work with us, and then you'll get some amount depending on how much support you need from these lovely folks at the below here. And I will say that all of these coaches are at the top of their game. They're working professionals in the field. They're all experts. Many of them are on Broadway, either currently or have been on Broadway recently, or in opera, some of our voice teachers, or film as well. And they have amazing achievements spanning Tony nominations, Oscar nominations, Grammy nominations. But what we love most about them and what we think is most important is that they're kind human beings. And that is something that segues well into this kind of first point that we like to call out as a point of difference about MCA. We are extremely fanatical about being kind and approaching every student as an individual, because every student is a beautiful individual. And we believe that if we're doing our best to help you find your unique, authentic voice and show that to schools in this process, which can often be daunting and challenging, then we are doing our job, because then the right school can find you, because they'll know who you are as a person, and you'll feel like you're representing that well. And it's easier said than done in this process, where there's a lot of moving parts and things are very subjective. But that's what we really believe in: individuality, fostering kindness over competition as well. We all do that in our own careers as artists, for our mental health and for the good karma of the universe and this business. And we really, really have seen it pay off. And so we try to instill that in every single student we work with. And this process can be tough. So fostering a sense of community is something we're really, really interested in at MCA with each of our classes among families. And we also feel that it's important to work with the whole fam, because this process takes a village and can be a lot on the family dynamic, to be honest, sometimes. And so we really strive to give families a more healthy, positive experience of what can be a tough process. We are also very comprehensive. And what we mean by that is we really can support you in any way you need, kind of like I mentioned. We are a boutique size, is what we like to say. Usually we have about 75 students, is what we aim to have in a class. And we treat each of you like you are our own children. And we get very, very fanatical about helping you. All of the coaches are represented here, actually, on our team. We don't have a very big team, as you can see. It's very family style and family vibes, and we've all known each other and worked together as artists ourselves, as performers for a long time, a lot of us. So we meet at least once a month, if not more, and we're in constant conversation about each of our students and how we can be partnering with each other and with them to make them the best they can possibly be and make them feel as great as they can about what they're presenting in terms of their material through this process. And we also offer really flexible packages, customizable coaching plans tailored to whatever team you already have. Again, maybe you already have lots of things covered in terms of monologues and dance, but you need a little singing support or something else. Some of our students really just need us for some guidance through the process. And they're mostly interfacing with me and Sarah, and maybe some interview prep, maybe some like pre-screen filming or pre-screen support, but that's pretty much it. Some students really need the whole boat of offerings, and then a lot of students fall in the middle. So we're happy to meet you where you're at, however we can best help. And then proven, we're very proud of our 100% success rate over 18 years. We have a lot of love for all the students that have gone through our program over 18 years, and we're still in touch with all of them, and they're all part of this. But we're very proud to say that every year of the 18 years we've been in business, there has not been a single student who hasn't gotten an offer for a competitive audition-based theater program. And we also have acceptances at pretty much every program that exists now, but certainly every top MT or acting program.
Amazing. Love it. Going a little bit deeper, we wanted to give you a glance at MCA by the numbers. Generally speaking, like Gigi said, we're really committed to the kindness and just committed to the work. Too much self-promotion is not usually our vibe, but all actors have to do a little bit of it. So this is a little bit more about us and our stats. Like Gigi said, we've been in business for over 18 years, helping make college audition dreams come true. And we've got our 100% acceptance rate, which we are super, super proud of. That is part of our commitment to making sure that at the end of this crazy process that can feel like it takes away a lot of control, that our students have agency, and they've got options on the table to choose from when they make that commitment to the end, for where they want to go and continue to grow as an artist and pursue their artistic career and dreams. In particular, we want to shout out our MCA class of 2026, who just made all of their commitments in May. We've been celebrating them nonstop for this past month. So if you don't follow us yet on Instagram, at My College Audition, highly recommend that you go check that out. You can see where everybody committed, and all of the celebrating that we've been doing over the last month. But here we go. We've got 70% of our seniors landed at a REACH program, either for musical theater or acting. This is a stat that we are especially proud of, considering that most REACH programs, we usually say, have an acceptance rate of less than 5 or 10%. So to have 77% of our class land at a REACH program is really an extraordinary accomplishment that we are super proud of, and proud of them for their hard work and our coaches for supporting them. In addition, they received over $2 million in annual talent and merit-based scholarship. This is also really extraordinary, especially in an expensive process. And with college tuition constantly on the up and up, we really have seen the returns of our students who commit to their prep and make sure that their artistic package is as polished as possible. It can really come back to them in aid, which helps lower that cost of tuition in the end. So very proud of them for that. We also had over 50% of our class receive an audition-based acceptance by December of senior year. This is so huge. I don't even know, I wish I could underline this a million times. And we're gonna talk a lot about timeline and early auditions today and what that can afford you. But all of our students to have that early acceptance by December, to know that there is a place that they could commit and study what they love, the pressure that takes off the rest of the process, and the way it really amps up the joy and enthusiasm to just keep that momentum going, is a huge deal. And then finally, some of our amazing acceptances. We had students this year who will be attending Carnegie Mellon, University of Michigan, CCM, NYU, Elon, Texas State, Boston Conservatory, Penn State. I feel like I shouldn't read all of these off. You guys can read these. But the list goes on and on. And while these programs are amazing and we're super proud of all of our students, we also are really committed to the idea that there is a right fit for each student. Names are wonderful, and there are so many incredible programs out there, some that are super well known and some that are less well known. But really, we're in service of making sure that our students are super clear on their priorities and what matters most to them, so that we can help them get that incredible acceptance to the school that's really going to offer them exactly what they're looking for. So that's a little bit about us. Beautiful. And we have a little MCA recipe for success that we generally like to throw out, and a motto that we lead with, that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. There's a lot of conversation in this process and in this business about how we have to get lucky. And luck is one thing, but really it's about how we've prepared to make sure that we're ready to seize every opportunity that comes our way. And so we try to let that guide us all the way through the process. But these are 5 things that we really lean into in terms of ensuring we have a successful road ahead. Number 1 is getting an early start. We're a little bit on the cusp of that at the moment, if I'm honest. We usually encourage folks to get started in December or January of their junior year, which we'll talk about. Our current MCA class of 2027 is already off to the races, but getting an early start really ensures that this process doesn't get away from us, and that we are always one step ahead, able to enjoy the ride while also getting everything done. Number 2 is building a balanced college list, which we'll talk about in just a second. This is super important. Number 3, choose the best material for you. Again, we talk a lot about the idea of making sure that we're telling the story of you, letting schools meet not just your talent, but also you as a person, as an artist, and as an individual really helps us stand out. So we're focused on that. Number 4, giving 110% to your pre-screens. I think most folks are familiar with pre-screens at this point and how competitive that process can be. It really is that first major hurdle, so we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then number 5, transitioning mindfully to live audition season. There's a big shift that happens in this process when we go from all of the private prep we've done and put on camera in our little screen to really showing up fully embodied physically and vocally and imaginatively, and really being excited to engage and connect with the people who are behind that audition table, so that they really want to root for you and make sure that you are the person that they have in their class. So those are our steps for success.
Thanks, Sarah. Amazing. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty, y'all. This slide is a lot. There's a lot of information on here and obviously a lot of text. So just a collective deep breath as we get going with this. And if this makes you feel panicked, please don't. Like Sarah said, we do recommend that juniors get started in either the fall of their junior year if they're thinking about summer programs or the winter, but it is not too late. And if you jump in it right now and hit the ground running and get in a meeting with us soon, there is so much that we can do to make sure that you are 1000% successful. It is not too late. So please don't panic. Okay. But if you are someone who's not a junior yet, we will just kick this off with fall and winter again of junior year. That's usually when we want to be delegating and assembling our team. And if this is something you haven't done yet and you are a junior or a rising senior, just ignore that it says fall winter. This is the first stop on the bus. So what we mean by this is thinking about what needs to occur in this process academically and artistically, and do I have who I need to help support me with getting those things done well. So whether that's again academic stuff of like, do I need an SAT test prep, do I need to get that scheduled, am I a good writer, or do I think I'll need a writing coach for my essays? There will be a lot of writing in this process for arts applicants. Do I have monologue selection in hand, or do I really need help with that? Is my voice teacher someone who's more of a technical teacher, who's opera trained or classical trained, but do I also want a temporary second person who's going to help me really choose good material for this process? You know, all these questions and more we want to be asking ourselves and kind of assigning hats right now. And then creating your college list draft as well, which is something that we'll talk a little more about in a moment. And then making your plan at that point for what's going to happen in the summer and how you're going to use that time strategically to do what you need to do to feel good mentally and be really ready as well for, and a balance of those things for the audition process once things really ramp up in the fall. And then winter, spring is when we're finalizing our college list. So right now, most of our juniors who have gotten started with us are doing that step. And then if we haven't already, select and start to prep your material and making a plan for headshots and pre-screens. So it's really important to get a date on the calendar by which to film your pre-screens now, because your coaches or your teachers or both, or your parents, whoever's helping you with this process, can help you work backwards from that date and make sure that all the ducks are in a row that are going to lead beautifully to that pre-screen shoot, so that you can be not stressed on that day or on those days when you're filming, and you can enjoy it and lead with preparation and excitement. And then summer is when we're continuing our audition prep, lessons with all your coaches. You may attend a summer program. And so we want to make sure that if you're doing that, we're really getting started seriously with prep now, and knocking out some to-dos actually before you go to that program, so that you're not too stressed when you come home. And then we're also beginning the Common App, which is the big academic application side, and we're writing that main essay, and maybe even starting on our extra essays, certainly starting on those by August, by the end of the summer. You're going to have some supplemental essays that need to get written. So knocking out that Common App ASAP is a really, really good idea, and one we recommend. And then we're ideally filming pre-screens in August or September. September is totally fine. August is a great thing to shoot for, just because it's nice to get this done before you go back to school, and things inevitably get crazy for parents and for students as senior year begins. But if it's always, always, always better to wait until you're truly ready to film pre-screens, because like Sarah said, they're very competitive, which we'll speak more to, rather than rushing it because you want to be done with it, or you feel like you need to meet a made up deadline that we recommended. So film when you're ready. Hopefully that's by the end of September at the latest. And then finish filming pre-screen materials in September and complete all your academic applications and submit those by September 15th. I know that if you're a guidance counselor who specializes in academics on this call right now, you're like, what? That's so early. And you're right. But for the college audition process for these theater applicants, there are a lot of extra dominoes that have to fall, and a lot of extra hoops that you have to jump through. And we cannot move on to the next domino until the previous domino is done and dusted. And so What this is about, the September 15th date by which to get in all your academic apps, Common App, not pre-screens, but your academic apps to the colleges, is because we cannot send a pre-screen or schedule an audition until the app is in to the college academically and processed. So the longer we wait to send in those applications and like finish writing those final essays and getting that Common App banged out, inevitably we open up more and more risk of I didn't hear back in time from pre-screens to get the slot that I wanted or get the early audition slot that Sarah and Gigi said was really smart so I could try to get an early yes, or I feel like I didn't pass that pre-screen because I waited too long to send them, all these different things. So we want to make sure that we aim for that as much as we can. Sarah, do you want to run down the rest of this guy?
Happily, yes. I love the second half, actually. The second half is my favorite.
A lot of hard work in the first half, a lot of enjoyment in the second half.
It's true. It's true. The second half is when things start happening, and they start happening very quickly, and that's exciting, but also can be a little overwhelming. So it's good to get an upfront picture of what to expect. Like Gigi was saying, after we wrap up the application piece, the next big thing that we're focusing on is getting those pre-screens submitted, which we encourage you to do by October 1st. This is going to ensure that you are in the earliest rounds of folks who are submitting and make sure we're hopefully getting early responses from any schools that roll out these decisions. It'll give you first choice of audition slots. It helps us make sure we can map out. We usually map out an ideal schedule with our students in advance for how we want to tackle auditions. And if we're submitting pre-screens early, much better shot we can grab all those specified dates and keep everything else that you want in your experience for the process. After that, the other thing we really are tackling in the fall is early auditions. These usually happen in November and December, though there are occasionally a couple schools that will offer this in October. And early auditions are any schools that offer early decision, which is binding. This is rare for the performing arts, but there are a handful of schools like NYU, Boston University that offer this. Early action, which is non-binding, meaning we'll receive a decision, but we're not obligated to attend that school. This is much more common for the performing arts. Or rolling admissions. Typically a school like Marymount Manhattan or Northeastern NYC, as it will be soon called, is a program that rolls out admissions decisions. These are great. They are really important opportunities in this process to take advantage of, and we strongly encourage all of our students to try to do at least somewhere between 3 to 6 auditions early in the fall if we can fit them in. Not all schools offer these, but we help, once we've got your list finalized and we see who's offering them, we can make a strategic plan for which ones are most likely to get us some good news early. The beautiful thing about early auditions is that we will get a decision from these schools by the end of December, which, as I was saying before, means you get to end the first part of your senior year knowing you are in, knowing you can go to college for the thing that you really, really want to pursue. We have students every year who end their process in December. Yeah, they get into a school that they love, they're so excited about, and they're like, that's it, that's all I need. They end the rest of the process, they cancel the rest of their auditions, they withdraw those pre-screens, they buy their sweatshirt, and they celebrate, and that's it from then on out. After that, we also have students who sometimes are able to just cut their lists in half. Yeah, which can save us a lot of time, a lot of travel, a lot of expense, which is wonderful. The flip side of this is that if students do not take advantage of early auditions, we won't be really entering the audition pool until January and February, which is late to start getting our feet wet. I find students who wait to start auditions at that time generally bring a few more nerves, a little bit less confidence into the space, which can impact us. So it's great to get that early experience in the fall as well. And on top of that, we don't usually hear back about those January, February auditions until sometime in late February or early March. And if you can project ahead a little bit and think about what it would feel like to be in your senior year, 2 months away from when you are supposed to be committing to a college, and we don't yet have a single yes on the table, that can be a really stressful and very overwhelming place to be. And it is a situation we try to make sure all of our students avoid. So don't mean to harp on the early auditions, but just want to really hammer home that they're wonderful opportunities for many reasons. And it behooves you to start this process early, to get those pre-screens done and in, to make sure that you are ready to rock and get a great yes in that early part of the year. Okay, I don't want to take too much longer with this slide, but I'll call out unified auditions that happen in New York, Chicago, LA. We are on site for those. We always have a green room space so that students can come, troubleshoot, ask questions. Parents can take a break from the hallways where there's always a lot of chatter. Unifieds is one of our favorite times of the year, and when we get to meet so many of you in person, sometimes for the first time. And so it's really, really exciting, and we love to be there to support you. And then the last thing I really want to call out on this page is April, because we just left it behind not too long ago, and it's fresh in my brain with our seniors. April is the time for visits. This is usually when a lot of these schools have their accepted student days. And most of the time, our students don't set foot on every campus until after they've received that acceptance. And we are really firm believers that getting your boots on the ground before you put down that deposit and make a commitment to your program is really, really important. Up to that point in time, most of our experience of these schools is what you've heard from us as your consultants, what you've heard on a podcast, what you've heard from faculty or from students. And this opportunity is really sometimes your first and only opportunity to get your own personal kinesthetic experience of whether or not this place is home for you and is a fit for you, and whether the people in that program and on that campus feel like people that are your friends, that you would want to be around and learn from and learn with. And April, sometimes we don't plan for it. It gets really busy and then we miss out on this opportunity. So just raising a little flag early that the process is truly not done most of the time until May 1st when we make that official deposit. So plan for some travel and resources in April as well. Whew. Okay, let's leave that slide behind.
We promise that's the longest slide, team. Woo! Woo-hoo. All right. So let's talk about college list. This is a very fun part of the process. It can take some time to really research well and make sure that you love every school on that list, or could potentially see yourself at every school on that list. But we're just going to run quickly down our best recommendations to think about as you do put that list together. The number one thing is, this is for performing arts that we're going to talk about, not academic odds of acceptance. So again, if you're an more academic minded counselor person on this call, you're probably like, this is too many schools, and these aren't the types of categories we usually think about in terms of what goes where. So Sarah and I really are here to help you with the artistic side of this process. We can definitely speak to some academic stuff, SATs, give you guidance on all the academic basics for sure, and help you make sure bases are covered. But when we make a list, it will always be in the form of what is a reach, match, or safety for you audition wise, performing arts wise. And that is based on many years of doing this and how familiar we are with these programs and what voice type they like to take, or if they like dancers, and what your skill set is based on what we've seen in our initial meeting, etc. But it's also based purely on numbers to a certain extent as well. Very much so is this first category, the reach category. So these are schools that may have a 1% acceptance rate. They can have up to about a 5% acceptance rate. But given those odds being very slim, no matter how talented you are and how amazing you are, these schools usually tend to go in the reach category for everybody. It's a very competitive process at these schools, and we need to have a chunky section of them because most of them have a pre-screen, which is a whole nother bar we have to clear before we can even get in the room, and potentially maybe a third round audition as well. And so we want to make sure we have a good number to account for a very natural and normal rate of attrition in the fall. No one passes all their pre-screens, almost no one. And that's totally normal, totally fine. So we planned for that by having a nice group of these, around 10, sometimes even a couple more than 10, depending on the student. And then matches are schools that have over a 5% acceptance rate. It may not be much over. There are still what we call reachy matches nowadays, more and more. But these are schools that we feel are a great fit for you, not a walk in the park by any means to get into, might still have a pre-screen, are still awesome programs. and maybe even a better fit for you than the Reach program you end up getting into. In some cases, that totally happens. But these are schools that we feel like are a little more in the pocket and a little more realistic based on, again, either numbers or our talent evaluation of you that we'll do in the initial hour where we meet. And then safeties, non-audition. Whew, no audition bar to clear. There may be an optional one for scholarship at some of these, which is really great, but your admission to that school will be purely based on academics. And then the short running list, these are schools that maybe don't make our first cut of 18 to 22 schools, but they're schools that you liked that we think we should keep around in case we want to add them after we get our pre-screen results back and recount our ducks and see how many options and auditions you've got ahead of you. And if you're not happy with that number, we can supplement from the short running list. And that's totally normal as well, because process is competitive, as we've said. The important thing, the last thing I'll say is you must get an outside assessment on your ability. It doesn't have to be with us, but I would be remiss if I did not recommend you doing that. Because someone who knows this process in its current form, the college audition process changes every year. It's certainly changed a lot since COVID, because of some new things that popped up and stayed in COVID. And the numbers are very different now, and the schools are very different now. And so someone who's a current expert on this process and has guided many students through it, so they have a really good basis of comparison and context for seeing your skills, listening to you sing, hearing you do your monologue, seeing you dance. And they can really tell you realistically what a safety match or reach is for you, because it really will be different depending on who you are. Like what are you a dancer first? Like I said, are you a certain kind of voice type that certain schools really like? There's a lot that goes into it. So we would love to give you that in our first meeting. And some students only need us for that first meeting. And they're like, I just want you to weigh in on my college list. And we're so happy to do that, because we believe that this is actually where the most mistakes get made in the process, is putting together a well-balanced, realistic, truly personalized college list. And so we're super happy. We're super happy to weigh in on it for you. But have someone weigh in on it for you is the big deal.
Love that. Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about pre-screens. Like I said, I bet most of you have at least heard this because it's a big buzzword in our process, but we can talk a little bit about what they are and why they matter and how we think about them at MCA. Pre-screens in their most basic sense, they're a virtual callback system, or we say, they're what they sound like. They're a pre-screening of applicants before a final audition. So the way that this works is each school will have a set of criteria. Each school that participates in pre-screens, not all schools require this, but as Gigi was saying, many of them do at this point, especially post-COVID. There was a big boom. So you will probably have to send in pre-screens for the majority of your schools. But those schools, they will have a list of requirements, song, acting, dance, or just acting, depending on what your major is, of what they would like you to record and send into them. And when we send this in, the school will watch that first round of material without ever speaking to you or seeing you in person. And just based on your videos, they will either say yes, which is a pre-screen pass. And that means we get invited to a final audition, either on campus, virtually via Zoom, or at Unifieds. Or we will receive a no, which would be a pre-screen rejection. And that means it is the end of the road for that college artistically. Yeah. If this is a school that we are otherwise excited about for an academic only major, we may still be able to keep this college in the mix, which is great. But if we do not pass the pre-screen for a musical theater program or an acting program at this school, that means that program's out. Yeah, this is part of the reason that it's really important to prepare these intentionally, because we can only send them once. We can't take them back. Yeah. Why do pre-screens matter? They matter because in truth, they are incredibly difficult to pass, and they grow more so each and every year as more and more students get excited about pursuing this process and frankly get smarter and wiser to what needs to happen in order to submit a successful and competitive package. Top programs that many of you are aware of, or that you probably read about online on our big lists of great programs, they can receive up to or around 2,000 pre-screen submissions each year, and they're usually accepting a final class of 12 to 20 students. which means there's usually a significant cut in that pre-screen round to how many students they will actually get to see live and in the room. It's also really important to know when we're sending pre-screens that our work is being evaluated in relation to other applicants. Yes, I always like to talk about pre-screens a little bit from the perspective of an auditor and what their experience is in terms of receiving all of these. And to me, it's quite similar to what it feels like when we get lost in like a social media doom scroll. Yeah, these faculty members are sitting and they are watching hundreds of pre-screen videos, often back to back. And it's quite challenging for our brains to take in that much content and to really stay engaged and committed to that. These faculty work hard to do it. I'm not trying to knock them in any capacity whatsoever, but we can acknowledge the neuroscience. It is our goal and our responsibility to never assume that our material is going to be watched more than once, and to make sure that we are making it as easy and enjoyable as possible for these faculty members to review your pre-screens and adjudicate your talent. Yeah, that's our responsibility. And so for many of these really competitive programs, just showing potential is not always enough. Potential is amazing, and a lot of schools are excited about potential, and it can get you very far. But for those really competitive reach pre-screens, prep and some amount of polish is really, really essential. In our experience, guiding many students through pre-screens, the most successful pre-screens are thoroughly prepped over time. Your coaches, faculty members, they see a lot of material and they're artists themselves, and they know the difference between something that has been really thoroughly lived in and prepared and thought about and crafted compared to something that has been rushed. Yeah, so prepped over time is really important, and it does show up in your videos. Highlight your authenticity and joy for performing. This stuff is contagious, y'all. Your joy, your enthusiasm, your desire to really keep growing in your craft and be a professional artist. Faculty love this. They want to be in the classroom with students who really want to be there. Yeah, they're not interested in dragging you through it. So if we can find ways to turn down the nerves and make sure that the joy is what we're leading with, that's really, really valuable. We want to showcase your very best work. Yeah, like I said, it's competitive to pass, but there are also instances where our pre-screens may wind up being our final audition. In some cases, weather happens, illness happens, and faculty will use this as your final audition. There are also instances at the end of the process where if this is the only material that they have of you when they're sitting down to put their final class together, oftentimes they're going back and referencing those pre-screens. Yeah, so we really want to make sure that you feel like it is the best work you've got, not just enough to get you to the next round. And then finally, we want things that are well shot, technically and aesthetically. Yeah, this goes to what I was saying about making it easy for your auditors. This does not necessarily mean that you need to shoot your pre-screens professionally, and I do want to be clear about that. We have students who shoot their pre-screens at home all the time, and that's totally fine. But it is really valuable for you to take some time to sit and reflect on who you are as an artist and a person who's going to be putting material on tape, and what's going to showcase your best work. Are you somebody who filming alone is going to create a little bit of a spiral and we're going to get into our heads and be really hard on ourselves, so we'd be better off with some outside support? Are you somebody who comes alive in a professional setting where it feels like performance mode energy, and that's going to help you lock in? And also, are you somebody who's down to tackle all of the tech related components to making sure that you're getting great content? Yeah, so just some things to think about as you make your plan for a very important piece of your process.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, S. Well done. I'm going to keep this one fairly short. If you want to read through or screenshot this slide, feel free. But the TLDR, as the students would say, is that musical theater applicants in this process for all these pre-screens that we're talking about, just to give you a sense, typically need at least 2 songs for pre-screens. More and more, it's nice to have a third option, to be honest, but in total in the process, you'll probably need around at least 5 songs in your little audition book. A couple of contemporary monologues, 1 classical monologue. So we're usually looking at 3 monologues, 2 or 3 songs for pre-screens that we want to film. And then for pre-screens, we usually need anywhere from 1 to 3 dance videos of some kind. One main pre-screen dance routine, usually, that we send into a lot of schools, and then maybe a ballet supplement video that some schools will require. And then a few schools have their own unique dance routine that's required, or they want to see a second one that kind of contrasts your first. So anywhere from 1 to 3. And then the fourth component of the pre-screen package for MTs, besides songs, monologues, and dance, is the wild card video, which is 60 to 90 seconds or 60 seconds, depending on your school list, of anything you want. Then there's some writing, like we said, some extra writing, but it's usually fun questions like, why do you want to do this? Or tell us about a show you saw that you really loved. And then some extra school specific video interview prompts. And then acting applicants, not as much stuff, which is amazing, but still a significant amount. And there are some tricky curveballs that are unique to the acting and the BA theater applicants. But we need 3 monologues for pre-screens and the process, 2 contemporary, 1 classical. Usually 1 song, depends on your college list though, that wildcard video that I mentioned. And again, specific interview prompts, probably more if you're an acting candidate than some MTs would have. And then some additional writing in the artistic sense, in addition to your academic writing. Ruby?
Amazing. All right, as we kind of start to wind ourselves down here, we wanted to hit you guys with our to-dos slide. This is an MCA favorite that Gigi and I throw a version of this together every month during our regular monthly webinar series that is complimentary for any student who's working with us throughout the process. We meet each month to try to break this big, crazy process down into some more manageable and enjoyable chunks. But we are very keen on actionable items and to-dos to help make this all a little bit easier on us as we go and make sure we stay on track. So these are the 3 things we would recommend you really hone in on right now to make sure that you either get up to speed or stay on track. Number 1, like we said, is assembling your team. It is amazing in this process to assign hats in advance so that in the moment you need that support, you can grab it, not be looking for it and trying to grab it and execute all at the same time. So take some time now, really think about who's going to need to be in your corner and make sure you've set up that support in advance. Super important. Number 2, begin to build your college list and the prep timeline. Yeah. Like Gigi said, please make sure you've got somebody checking your list and ensuring it is balanced. This is critical to making sure you have great options and that agency at the end, like we were talking about. And please also make sure that you research all of your programs, like really, really thoroughly research. You are unique, maybe more so than you realize, and your personal priorities and what's important to you in a school could be totally different from somebody else's priorities. And while it is great to take recommendations and great to hear about other people's experiences, you always want to make sure that you can filter that back through your own lens and your own priorities so that you're auditioning for a bunch of schools that you're actually personally really excited about. So please make sure you're researching as well. And then you want to be mapping out that personal prep timeline, especially through winter, spring, and summer and leading into fall. Really now up until we start those early auditions, you want a solid plan in place so we can roll all the way through October, just checking things off as we go, feeling empowered and excited to actually finally jump into those auditions. And then finally, number 3, we want to begin to select your material. Yay, exciting, the fun part. I do monologue selection at MCA with all of our students, so I get to meet with everybody and spend some time talking about what excites us and characters we're drawn to and things and themes we want to explore. It is so important for you to find material that you really love and that tells that authentic story of you. We promise your auditors are trying to meet you. They really do want to know, and there's so much talent out there. Talent, it's an important piece of how we get that acceptance, but it's really not the only piece. Your auditors have to fall in love with you and really want you to be the person who's in their class. And so as much as we can bring you into the room through your pieces, through your writing, through your headshot and your outfit, the better. So now is the time to really be thinking about selection and doing that mindfully. You want to get all that stuff picked before summer begins so you can jump right into prep.
Sarah's a true monologue selection wizard, y'all.
Oh.
I don't know what goes on in that hour. I mean, I do, but like, wow. I mean, in an hour, you get like all the pieces you need for this process. They're amazing. Everyone loves them.
We do our best.
Sarah does pretty darn amazing with that. And everything else, of course. So what last thing we wanted to call out before we kind of start to wrap up and turn toward Q&A is for those of you who this might be helpful for, we do still have a few more spots left in our summer dance intensive, which happens in Boston each year. This year it's August 3rd to 8th, so it's just about a week. You can also take your headshots with our photographer while you're with us if you want to. But we designed this specifically for our students a few years ago who kept telling us like, I got the acting, great. I got the singing, great. The dance is questionable. And we find that a lot of students really need to pack a lot in a short amount of time to get their confidence and skill set where it needs to be for the dance part of this process. The goal is not to turn into a prima ballerina in 6 to 7 days, but the goal is very much to target beginner or intermediate dancers who feel you wouldn't put yourself in the advanced category. This is probably not the area that you feel strongest in, but you really, really have worked hard in the singing and acting areas. And so you don't want dance to be the score that lets you down in your college auditions. And so we have top faculty from top programs in the Boston area who run this. These are literally the people who are going to sit behind the table at your dance, or who are going to teach your dance auditions. So maybe in front of the table, but these people review all the pre-screens. They know what's going on in these dance auditions, and they're super wonderful folks. And it's usually a super great week filled with growth and lots of support and lots of failing and trying again and failing. But every day you're going to learn a college audition combo that was like used in the past or is currently being used by some schools. And every day you're going to take ballet and jazz technique that's targeted to what you need to know for this process. We're even going to teach the ballet supplement combo, one that you can use if you want, and we can help you film it. We're going to do a mock dance audition, and there's a lot of good stuff here. So if you want the most bang for your buck that you can probably get when it comes to like packing a lot in terms of dance in a short amount of time right before this process ramps up, this is a great way to do it. So we do partner with a hotel, and so we have a room block at a discounted rate really nearby and walking distance. And this is in beautiful downtown Boston in the hotels in the theater district. So kind of a nice little week-long vacation for parents too.
Amazing. We'll take questions in just a minute at the end, y'all. So I promise we'll get to you, Aurelia. We won't leave you hanging. If you guys are ready to get started, if you heard things today that made you excited about the possibility of partnering with MCA, if you're curious to do that talent assessment and make sure that your college list is in great shape, we'd love to meet with you and see how we can help support you. The first step for any student who wants to work with MCA is to complete an initial consultation. That's with either myself or with Gigi. And this is 100% commitment free. Yeah, if after that hour you feel we're not a fit for you, that's totally cool. We understand that this process is, it's tough and it's complicated, but it's also really personal. And if you are going to seek additional support, you deserve to have people in your corner that you really feel are the right fit for you. And we want you to have that just as much. So in this hour, we will see you perform. We'll give you that talent assessment on ability, and we're going to suggest areas how you can keep working, to raise that competitive level for the process. There's strategy on that based on who you are and what you're already bringing to the table and what your college list looks like. We'll talk about college lists, like we said, make sure that it's personalized, realistic, and balanced, so important. And then we'll also give you an individualized roadmap and a recommended coaching plan of how you would partner with MCA if you decided that you wanted to work with us. We are so grateful to you for taking the time on this Saturday to hang out and chat. And so we'd love to offer you $50 off your initial consultation. You can use that code juniors27 when you schedule your meeting. But please just be aware that that code is going to expire on June 15th. Yes. So your initial consultation needs to be booked before June 15th, but it's totally fine if you book it out for a future date past June 15th. You just won't be able to use that code past then. We'll throw this link in the chat as well so that you have a direct place to book. But we would love to meet with you and get to know you a little bit more and see how we can help support you on your journey.
Absolutely. So that is the end of slide time. Hooray. We would love to open it up in these last 11 minutes to Q&A and see how we can best serve this specific group that was able to join live today. We would love to know whatever's on your mind, really anything about this process or anything that we shared in the slides. We are super excited to answer. So please feel free to hit us with your questions, either in the Q&A or the chat, or raise a hand. Aurelia, no worries. It looks like you didn't mean to raise your hand. No problem. Been there, my friend. We do have one great question about the summer intensive and if that's available online. I'm just going to stop sharing real quick so we can more see our faces. Unfortunately, not available online just because we do dance prep online, like private one-on-one dance lessons with our coaches, both of whom work at some of these top programs in Boston and New York. But we don't do anything for the dance intensive online just because that's kind of one of our in-person events that we've designed for that format. But again, we do have a room block of rooms for folks who are from out of town, and we already have a few folks from California actually as well who are planning to join us. Also, Airbnb can sometimes be a cheaper option or an option that people like to do, depending. So there are numerous options on housing locally. But if you can't join us live, we can definitely try to help you out with other dance resources. That's okay. Ruby. All right. Other questions, friends? Is the consultation online? And if not, where are we located? Sarah, you want to take that?
Yeah, totally. Yes, the consultation is fully virtual. I am based in Boston and Gigi is based in California primarily, though sometimes she comes and visits me on the East Coast too. But yes, so every offering that we have at MCA, we do virtually. Occasionally, we do some in-person events like our dance intensive. We do some in-person dance coaching. We do in-person mock auditions, and we offer in-person pre-screen and headshots. But primarily, our coaching is done virtually. We are super proud to be actually an international company. We work with students from all over the world. And while there's beautiful value in in-person prep as well, and we try to maximize that time when we get it with you, this is what allows us to be available and accessible to as many students as possible to help them on this journey. So yes, virtual, fully virtual, and here to help.
Yes, we work with students from all time zones, truly. I think we've hit almost every time zone in the world. we have more and more international students all the time, which is super awesome. So yes, great. I think another great question from Stacy, when it comes to live auditions, is there a preferred location for the unifieds? Better to do, yeah, this is a great question. So for those who don't know, there are 3 official like unified locations that these colleges can sign on to go to make it easier for you and kind of become a one-stop shop location for a few days. It's usually a pretty loose agreement where some schools, not all, but many, will agree to come to the same city, more or less in the same building or the same area over the same weekend or set of days. And this happens in January in New York, and then early February in Chicago, and then also early February right after that in LA. So those are the 3 locations. Depends on the student, I would say, and the family and the college list, like geographically, what makes sense in terms of city, of course. But I will say that we have a great video on this on our YouTube channel where we actually break down a little bit more the benefits of each city. If you want to just look us up on YouTube, or Sarah maybe can throw the link in the chat. There's a video specifically about unifieds in our little college audition quick tip section. But I would say the most schools go to Chicago is an important thing to know. Chicago is also the longest. It happens over 4 or 5 days. New York only happens over 2 or maybe 3, and LA happens over 2 only. So the longest one is Chicago. The most attended one is Chicago, partly because a lot of these schools, the Midwest is an easy meeting point in the middle for the East Coast and the West Coast schools, and Chicago tends to fall in line with where a lot of these schools in the Midwest are, and a lot of them are there. So that one is where you can technically get the most bang for your buck, if you will, the most schools done. Our students usually typically do around 3 per day if they're musical theater folks. And so if you're a musical theater person, for example, and you go to the 4-day Chicago situation, you can get 12 schools done, sometimes maybe even a couple more if you go early or can squeeze in extra. That said, we go to all 3. Sarah or me or both of us. We love going to New York. New York is really cool because you're in the thick of it. You're in the room where it happens, so to speak. Like you're sharing a wall with people who are rehearsing for a Broadway show. You might even see one of your favorite stars while you're there. It's like it's all going on in that building. It's very cool. And you get a New York trip out of it. Again, it's not the most attended and it is a little more cramped than Chicago, but it also has like a very cool vibe of its own. And we do have students who go to two every year, either LA and New York or New York and Chicago, just because it is such a great way to get money saved and time saved of flying all around the country. So that's another option. Sorry, long answer, but I know that's a big question on everyone's mind, so I wanted to
Yeah.
get into it.
I know we have other great questions that we should get to too, but I will just add to that as well that sometimes Unifieds is really impacted by those early auditions. And if you are somebody who gets a great yes in the fall, your Unifieds plan can sometimes change because we may only now need to hit a few other extra schools. So that's something too, just to be aware of as you go. Okay, great. We've got a question about, do pre-screen requirements change every year for each theater program, or do the requirements stay overall the same, especially when considering to record early? This is a great question. I'm going to hit you guys with the answer that we share a lot, which is sometimes an infuriating answer, which is it depends on the school, but you will hear this a lot. It also depends on your major, musical theater or acting. If you are a musical theater major, there is a great program, I'll call it, agreement called the Musical Theater Common Pre-Screen. And we can throw that link in the chat as well. This is an agreed upon set of criteria that many musical theater programs have jumped on board with, which can really help streamline your process for pre-screen filming. Those requirements for 2026 to 2027 were just updated. So the requirements are now correct, but the school list is not yet fully populated. So this is something you'll want to check back in on regularly. If a school is part of the MT Common Prescreen, it makes your prep process much, much simpler for prescreen filming, but there will almost always be outliers, in which case we have to be really diligent about checking in with each other individual school on your list and really, really following those requirements to a T. Some schools are good about updating those things early, but sometimes we don't see updates. Like I've heard NYU is probably not going to update us this year until August 1st. So occasionally there are schools that are a couple of outliers that we have to be mindful of. Acting students, unfortunately, do not have a common pre-screen. That's for musical theater only. So that's what Gigi was alluding to when we say technically you have less material, but sometimes your pre-screen filming can also be a little bit more challenging because there's more unique or specific little requirements or deviations. So what we usually encourage you to do is start the process of pulling your pre-screen requirements now, and then just make sure that we do a final check-in, hopefully about a month or so before we go to film, just to make sure nothing has slipped through the cracks. It's usually what we recommend. Groovy. All righty.
Sarah, do you mind taking us to another question? I'm just answering Lily's question.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the Q&A. Thank you.
Is there an a la carte option? We just want help with choosing monologues. This is a great question, and I totally understand it because every time I'm in a lesson with students, what I hear is that finding monologues is the toughest piece. And that makes total sense. It's a lot harder to track those down, especially great audition pieces that are age appropriate from published plays. That can be really, really tricky. We actually do not offer this service a la carte. We require all students to purchase an MCA membership, which designates time for consultations with either myself or Gigi, as well as a lesson bundle to get started with us, but that can start at as few as 5 lessons. But the reason that we do this, again, like I said, is because it can be really, really challenging to find great material. And as you may have gotten a sense of from us so far in this process, we really believe that success in this process is holistic, yeah? And while we're super happy to partner with folks you already have supporting you on your team, it is a great idea to make sure that there is somebody who has a big picture and is invested in helping you across the board. And so if we are giving material to a student, we really want to make sure that we're also a part of guiding you through your entire process. So that's not something that we're able to offer at this point in time. But I do recommend Concord Theatricals, a great place to go look for plays. New Play Exchange is a great place to go look for plays. Just make sure you're finding things that you really are personally passionate about. Or if you do decide to sign on and work with us, we can definitely help you with selecting pieces, both contemporary stuff and classical, because you'll probably need some Shakespeare as well. Cool. What else? Do you want to jump in, Gigi, with another?
Yeah, there's a great question actually that Lily asked in the Q&A, among some other great ones, but how do you showcase your joy and passion during a short audition? This is a great, great question, and one that me and Sarah as professional actors are thinking about all the time and learning about all the time because we audition a lot. That is a big part of your job as a professional actor. Um, and so I love this question. How do you showcase who you are, your joy for this, your passion for this, your dedication to doing this, and like working hard in a class for 4 years in just a short audition? Um, I feel personally that your preparation is everything, everything with this. Because if you set yourself up to be very, very well prepared on your pieces and you've worked on them with people who are good guides, you know what you're playing, you know how your voice is going to sound, you know that these songs are in the pocket, and you truly love your material and you're kind of prepared in this passion way as well about what you've chosen and how you've prepped it, that is going to show in that room. And you've also set yourself up to be able to just enjoy yourself in that 5 minutes that you get, or 2 minutes that you get, or whatever it is. Um, if you've done the prep, there's no need to be nervous in a bad way. You may be nervous in a good way because this is exciting and you're psyched to meet new people and you're happy to be there and you love this. But if you're truly prepared, whether that's like we do some confidence coaching, which we have an amazing coach on our team for that, Stephanie, or maybe it's just preparing the pieces really well and you don't struggle with confidence or nerves, so that's fine. But having a good plan that you've executed and practiced before so much that you can just infuse your joy into it in the moment, and respond to what happens as well, because every audition will be different. The faculty will be different. The vibe will be different. They'll want to talk about different things. The room will physically be different, very, very, very different. Sometimes a tiny conference room, sometimes the main stage at Elon University and the audience is there. And so that's my big thing is prep. Yeah, preparation.
Yeah, I would add to that too. I think we talk about this. There's two parts to prepping this process. There is the prep of your material, but then there's the craft of working on your material, but there also is the craft of auditioning. And auditioning is its own skill set, as Gigi was saying, that we practice as professional artists all the time. You've probably heard the phrase mock audition thrown around, and that is something that we do offer in person. But we also have a really incredible offering that I'm passionate about because I made it, but I'm passionate about it anyway. Which is our one-on-one virtual mock auditions. And these actually are a la carte. They are open to the public. Anyone can participate in this. But we allow students to schedule one-on-one virtual mocks completed via Zoom with one of our coaches at any point in the process throughout the year. So if you are somebody who does not have a lot of audition experience, if you want to practice what it feels like to get nervous in front of someone you don't know and make sure that your choices are still there, make sure that you feel comfortable taking an artistic adjustment or answering those interview questions, that's something that you can do with us at any point throughout the year. And we have a lot of students who do this multiple times. Sometimes they'll come for the in-person mock and then they'll still sprinkle these in if they've had a break in auditions, if they want to brush things up before unifieds, or if it's something you just want to use before maybe a school that's especially important to you. But I'll drop the link in that chat too, because like we said, whether you decide to work with us or not, that's available to you. And we encourage you to take advantage of it and get that prep on your audition experience specifically, not just your pieces.
Awesome. Let's see. I replied to a couple things privately, and I want to make sure we just wrap in a couple minutes to be mindful of everyone's time, although these are great questions.
Great questions. So many great questions.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. We love it. We love it. Does applying as an acting major to a competitive school affect your chances of being accepted academically? Right. This is a great question that I wanted to answer live. I kind of typed an answer to Lily, but I wanted to shout this out. Many of these schools, at many of them, a good audition, a great, great audition can help your odds academically. There's a little bit of what I would call a gray area between the academic folks who are reviewing your Common App essay and package and the artistic folks who are reviewing your audition and your pre-screen materials. And if the artistic folks really love you and you represent something they feel they need in their program, or you give a really well-prepared, excellent audition, and you may be on the bubble academically, they can go to bat for you and try to sway the academic side. And in many cases, that is doable and that will happen. And that's great. Um, there are some schools that keep it very, very separate, and you kind of essentially get a score academically and a score artistically. But if you do not meet their bar for the academic score, so to speak, it's going to be a no across the board. So academics do play a role in this process. To be honest, your audition will make up the bulk of your decision at most BFA or BM programs, those more intensive focus programs on acting and musical theater. Um, but a great audition can sway the academic side at many, many schools, I will say. Even some that you might think like, I don't know about that academically for my child. It might surprise you. Sarah and I have come to know which those are over time because we've had students negotiate in auditions or negotiations with all of these schools. So when we meet with you, we can kind of indicate on your college list like which ones are going to be a no, a hard no academically, given your GPA or your record. So which ones we don't need to waste our money and time on applying to, so we can make room for great schools that could be a yes. And then we can tell you which ones, like Syracuse, like they actually have a system that we know about internally to review applicants that could lend itself to a tiny bit of gray area depending on your GPA. So all things we can help with. Okay, I want to wrap up there. But thank you all so, so much for joining us. Sarah and I, if you couldn't tell, truly love our jobs. And we get so excited about all of this. And so we hope that you learned something. And again, you're feeling a little more clear, if not a little more calm, even than when you came in. And we really, really hope we'll be seeing you. But we wish you lots and lots and lots of luck. Whoever you choose as your coach, if you do choose a coach, please make sure you really love and trust that person or admire them and think that they are wise in some way, because you're going to be spending so much time with them. So like Sarah said, if that's not us, we totally get it. We want you to choose the person that's right for you. But make sure they are right for you, because you're gonna be putting a lot of eggs in their basket and you're gonna see them a lot over the next year. So we wish you lots of luck with that, and we hope we see you soon.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We are rooting for you.
Woo!
Break legs and have an amazing process.
Break a leg, team. Hope we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.